Tuesday, August 21st, 2018. Welcome to Eezeey Gamer. We're going to talk about something I'm seeing rumors of this, that the Nintendo Switch is going to do an upgrade in 2019. There are some people that are kind of losing their crap about this. Um, I believe the rumor. I think Nintendo will release a new Nintendo Switch in 2019. The reason a lot of people are getting a little upset is because the Nintendo Switch came out in 2017. So to get a new Nintendo Switch in 2019 would be 2 years. So let's say you bought yours. I didn't buy mine at launch. I bought mine in October of 2017, which means I've had it less than a year. Now, I'm not a huge fan of my Switch, but I am glad I have it because there are some great games that are coming out for it and have come out for it. So I'm glad I have it. Another reason people are kind of losing their... Because the rumor is that Nintendo will not require third-party developers to make sure that all games work on the new Switch and the old Switch. And I think that's where a lot of people are getting a little bit more upset. Because if you want to play the newest games, you will have to play them on a new Switch. You'll have to upgrade. I think Nintendo is probably making this new system pretty advanced. It'll upscale to 4K. It won't render in 4K, it'll upscale to 4K. It's capable of it. And I guess it's, a lot of it has to do with, there are certain games that might come out for the Nintendo Switch if Nintendo can create hardware powerful enough to get them on there. And I think Nintendo kind of wants... Nintendo's doing really well with the Switch. They really are. But I still think they want some of those, because now third parties are really jumping in on the Switch. Nintendo hasn't had a lot of third-party success in a long time. So they're starting to have it again, and I think they want to continue that ball rolling. So Nintendo has been doing this for years. Of course, anybody who knows Nintendo, and I'm sure you guys all know this as well, Nintendo had a couple different NESs. They had a couple variations of the Super NES. I'm not sure. The Super NES may be one of those that never had a couple different variations. It may have been the same variation all the way through. But especially with like the Game Boys and the DSs and things of that nature, they always kind of upgrade them a little bit, make them a little bit better. Sometimes they'll like get rid of some features that they stopped using or caring about. And of course, we've seen Microsoft do this. We've seen Sony do this. We've seen Sega do this. Heck, there's a Sega machine out there that was a Sega CD. I think it was called the Sega CDX. It had the Sega CD and the Sega Genesis, and it was not much bigger than a compact Discman. I mean, it was thicker. I mean, it was a pretty thick unit, but it wasn't much bigger in scale. So Sony doing this, and I think there's a couple other reasons. There are people out there that say that the overheating issue that is pretty common in the Switch is causing cracking in the case, and it's causing warping. So Nintendo may be also doing this because maybe they have solved some of the heating problems that would cause that are causing the Switches some problems. But I definitely see Nintendo doing this. Now, understand this. The Switch came out in March of 2017. I have a feeling that if Nintendo releases this new unit in 2019, it'll be in September or October. September or October actually puts the system out at being 30 or 31 months. So a year and a half, or 2.5 years. That's quite a bit of time. 2.5 years. I mean, I know that 2017 is when it came out, and 2019 is when people just kind of go, that's 2 years. Take a look at the months. March of 2017 all the way to September or October, and let's go September, is a 30-month time period basically. So that's 2.5 years. I mean, that's not horrible. People upgrade their phones every single year. We kind of get a little angry about doing it about consoles, but I think we're going to have to get over it. It's like, I have a feeling that these consoles now, because they're more and more like computers, are going to require constant upgrading, which sucks. I mean, because we don't always want to keep buying new consoles, and I think the thing that's really pissing off a lot of people, and this even kind of irks me a little bit, to know that there could be a really cool game coming out on the Switch, and I can't play it on mine. Which means for a system I'm not playing a lot of, to have to go out and spend another $300, and that's if they keep it at $300. I mean, if they do what Microsoft did with the Xbox One X, they priced it at $500. So, I mean, if Nintendo decides to price it at, $400, that could be an expensive unit to buy if I want to get, a top flight game on my Switch. Now, Nintendo has also said that all first-party games, anything Nintendo makes, has to work on all Switches. So that means any Mario game, any Zelda game, any of those games have to work on all Switches. But third-party, rumor is, they don't have to. But these are all just rumors. There are no facts. Nobody's come forward and said anything to the, nobody's come out and said anything. I mean, I heard it from Rich I heard it on Rich's thing from Review Tech USA, and then Johnny Millennium on Happy Console Gamer just mentioned it. And of course, they've gotten it from other sources as well. And I mean, it trickles all the way down to a couple of other people that I can't remember their names right now because I don't really follow them. But I can see the rumor being true, because if Nintendo does release this, I think it'll be closer to the holiday season. It will let them maybe fix some of the issues with the warping and cracking cases on the Nintendo Switch. It'll let them fix maybe some of the heating problems that some people are having. It's not a huge problem, but there are some people that are having problems with warping switches and some of the cases cracking a little bit. It'll let them fix the heating and cooling problems with it. And then they can also release a more powerful Switch that can upscale to 4K, and maybe they can bring in even more third-party support with bigger titles. So I think there's some big title out there that's rumored that could end up on the Switch if they can create a machine that can handle it. But yeah, I mean, to me it's like Nintendo's probably going to do it, and I don't have a problem with Nintendo doing it. I really don't. I get it. It's like, it may make me mad if I can't play a game that I really want to play on the Switch, but I can see where other fans are. I mean, I believe me, I get it. I understand if you're mad, because we're used to consoles not having to upgrade, and Microsoft and Sony have basically said the stuff has to work on all versions of the console. So if it works on the Xbox One X, it has to work on the Xbox One. If it works on the PS4 Pro, it has to work on the PS4. And Sony and Microsoft have both kind of steadfast with, we are going to do that. Nintendo might be saying, you don't have to. If you create a game that'll only work on that system, then so be it. But here's the deal. Nintendo, if they can get this machine, this Switch, running on par with the PS4 and Xbox One X, and do it by the end of 2019, we may see, Nintendo start to be able to keep up a little bit. I think that we're not seeing the biggest jumps in graphical, as big a jumps as we used to see. Not when we were in the bit wars, when we went from Atari to NES, and then we went from like the NES to the Genesis and the Super NES. There were just big graphical upgrades, and then when you went from like the Super NES and the Genesis, and then you went to 3D graphics of the PlayStation and the Saturn and the N64, kind of just even the N64's 3D stuff. I mean, especially if you're looking at GoldenEye or Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario 64, some of those, they were amazing at the time. I mean, you have to remember, they haven't aged well, although Super Mario 64 hasn't aged badly, but GoldenEye has aged poorly. And a lot of those 32-bit 3D games like Battle Arena, Toshinden, and some of those, they've aged terrible. But you could see graphical upgrades. PS1 to PS2, giant upgrades in graphics. The PS2 and to the PS3 and the Xbox 360 era, almost more lifelike. And now it's like we almost have on the current systems photorealistic looking characters in some of these cutscenes. It's amazing. So I don't think the graphics, once you get to photorealistic, once it looks like real life, where do you go? How do you make it look more like real life than real life? So I think the graphics are going to start to slow down. It'll just be how much you can render, maybe, and how quickly it'll render and all this other stuff. But there's always room for upgrade, always. But I think the Switch might be able to start catching up, and I don't think that the new systems that are coming out from Microsoft and Sony are going to be giant leaps forward. They'll be more powerful, absolutely, and they'll be worth buying, but they won't be the most giant leaps forward that we're used to seeing from the older generations to the newer generations. But the machines will do a lot more. They'll be able to render a lot more. They'll just be quicker and be able to make the graphics look just a little bit sharper and just a little bit cleaner and just a little bit nicer, because that's basically what a new console does. But I think Nintendo can maybe start to close the gap. And let's face it, Nintendo's machine, portable. Take it on the go with you. Could you imagine if, and I'm not saying they can, but could you imagine a game like Red Dead Redemption 2 on the Switch? Red Dead Redemption 2, could you imagine being able to just take it with you? If you got to sit on a bus, or you got to sit on a plane for a long time, or you got to wait at the Department of Motor Vehicles for an hour and a half. Could you imagine having Red Dead Redemption 2 on a portable device? I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying that the next Nintendo machine or the next upgrade from the Switch to the new Switch will have that kind of power. But wouldn't it be cool if it did? Wouldn't it be cool if it was capable of it? I don't think it will, because it barely looks like the Xbox One X is going to be able to handle what RDR2 looks like. So I'm curious to see what other people think of this. I mean, by what I've seen, it's kind of one of these things where I think a lot of the younger generation understand that everything upgrades pretty quick now, and people that are more my age or seem to be more outraged, maybe people in their mid-20s to mid to late 20s and older, because we're used to consoles not doing this. I think if Nintendo can give us a better product, why not? And they're not forcing us to buy it, but if they're going to make it, like I said, I do understand the people that are mad. I do. I get it. Because, I may have a Switch that sits there and it's useless to me because a game that I really want to play, I can't play it on there. And, and maybe when the time comes, I might be completely outraged because I see this game and I'm going, I got to spend $300 or $400 and get another one of these things. And I may not want to do it. But then every time I see a really cool Nintendo game come out, and I'm sitting there going, it only works on that Switch. I mean, I can see it maybe in the eShop, but I can't buy it. So, I don't know. I understand both sides. I see it both ways. I can see why people are outraged, and I get it. I mean, you're allowed. You're absolutely allowed to be outraged. You should be. We should all have a little bit of anger about it, but then we should also see the other side of it as well, where it's like, it's progress. And Nintendo may be making this machine so powerful, there's no way they can ask game developers to make the game work on on a system that it's just not capable of. Downgrading the graphics would make the game almost look muddy or ugly in comparison to what it would look like on the new Switch. So if the new Switch comes out, I'll predict this. If these rumors are true, and these are just rumors, Nintendo has not come out and said anything to confirm nor deny. But if they are true, look for it to drop probably in late 2019, closer to the holiday season. Just because, why not? Drop it close to the holiday season. And I don't know if they really want to announce it anytime soon. Believe me, I don't think they want to announce it anytime soon. And maybe this happens at the Tokyo Game Show, or Nintendo will release the information on one of their little podcast things they like to do. Nintendo kind of marches to their own drummer. And they understand that most Nintendo fanboys are loyal. And they'll stick by them and they'll understand. And I think if we get this game in late 2019, a lot of people will kind of sit there and take a deep breath and go, you know, that is 2.5 years out from the Switch dropping. So I'd advise you right now, if this rumor I'd hold off on, if you're looking to buy a Switch, I'd hold off. Hold off just a little bit. Because you may end up sitting there going, you know, at the end of 2019, I could get a pretty cool Switch that can play a lot more stuff. So patience might be a virtue, but it might be really expensive. You know, I didn't wait. I wanted mine when I got it. I got it, like I said, I got it in like October of 2017. I've almost had it a year. Haven't gotten that much use out of it, but I'm glad I have it. Because there are some pretty cool games on it, and I know that there are still some cool games to come on it. So, you know, I know that it's Nintendo. And Nintendo has never, ever, ever done things the way we think they should. They have always just done things the way they think is best for their company. As well they should. They are still very successful. They've had hiccups, but they seem to know their industry pretty well. They seem to know their audience very well. And they have not made enough missteps to cost them their business. They haven't. Remember, Sega made a bunch of missteps and ended up getting out of the console market. Nintendo has made missteps and they're still here in the console market, making games, and they are right now strong again in the console market. They were strong with the Wii. They made a huge mistake with the Wii U, but they are strong again with the Switch. They fixed a problem with the NES Classic when they didn't release enough. They re-released it. I was even able to get one on the re-release. Got it easy. You know, when they released the Super NES, they released plenty of them. I mean, I've been able to walk into stores and see these things just sitting in cases. So if you want a Super NES Classic, usually you can find them at a Walmart or a Target or something like that. You can find them just sitting in the case and go, maybe I'll get that. So Nintendo is you know, I've criticized Nintendo in the past, but they know their business, and I'm not a businessman, and I can't argue with the company that when I predicted the Switch would sell about 75 million units in its lifespan, not early on, but they may do it. They may eclipse 100 million. The thing is popular and the thing is doing good. And maybe this next version of the Switch, if they keep the price point at $300 for the next version of it, you know, you get a pretty powerful system, handheld system for $300. You know, that's not bad, and especially if it can play some of the bigger AAA titles. I don't think it'll be able to play everything, but it may get some bigger AAA titles than we think Nintendo's seen in a long time from people. It could be pretty cool. So I think if it happens, if the rumor is true, late 2019, September, I'll predict September of 2019 is when this comes out. This gives people plenty of time to get one before the holidays. You know, and it makes a nice little, it makes a really cool gift for somebody who may not have it. Um, but if you're looking to get one, hold off until maybe Nintendo confirms or denies this. Right now, they seem to be staying pretty radio silent. You know, and there's no reason for them to. I mean, right now it's just the internet talking, and Nintendo doesn't seem to listen to the internet that much, which is probably a good thing for them. But I am curious, which side of the fence do you fall on? Are you angry if this does come out in 2019? Are you happy to get a new one? Do you have a Switch? Would you buy a Switch that could upscale to 4K, that is a little bit more powerful and might be able to play more AAA titles in the future? So let me know what you think down in the comments below. And with all that being said, to the troops, past, present, and future, thanks for the freedom.